This is a review of a top-selling Amazon book with over 20,000 ratings and a great number of reviews. Sleep affects all of us far more than topics that get a great deal more attention, such as climate change, race and gender issues, vaccines, COVID, and even war and finance. Yet, since there aren't any huge financial interests one way or the other, it doesn't get very much press. This author, Matthew Walker, notes that it has kind of been an orphan stepchild in the world of medicine. Doctors don't know about it, not many study it. It's difficult to get recognition. All that notwithstanding, modern life has played hob with a system that took 500 million years to evolve. We take caffeine to stimulate ourselves, alcohol to sedate ourselves, and we eat too much because we can. Chasing financial success, we stress ourselves. Artificial light and jet travel have messed with our circadian rhythms. That's the cycle of lightness and dark that controls our lives. The success of this book is testimony to the number of people who are concerned with their sleep. It's divided into 4 parts. What is sleep? The effects of sleep deprivation, all about dreaming, and sleep disorders and treatments. This organization is so natural that I've used Walker's chapter titles and part titles as my PowerPoint. Here's part 1. So why do we sleep? Sleep occupies a third of our lives, taking time away from productive activity. It makes us vulnerable to predation. It turns out to be an activity that's as old as multicellular life itself. It's essential for a great number of life activities. Sleep has a positive effect on almost everything we do. It gives the body time to repair itself and renew itself, and the mind to clear itself of junk, both chemical and mental, that accrues throughout the day. Put another way, insufficient sleep is dangerous. It leads to cancer, Alzheimer's, accidents, diabetes, obesity, and psychological problems. 2 factors govern our sleeping. The first are signals from our internal clocks. The second are chemical substances that create sleep pressure in response to that circadian rhythm. Our internal clock itself has 2 factors. The first is lightness and dark from the sun. The second is totally internal. Oddly, it operates on something like a 25-hour cycle that has to be kept in check by lightness and dark. But the 2 seem to coordinate to know when to release the chemicals that create sleep pressure and put us to sleep and that wake us up. Among other things, the circadian rhythm controls our body temperatures and the release of melatonin and other chemicals to control our sleep cycles. Like a gyroscope, however, the cycle of our circadian rhythm is hard to knock off course. It adjusts slowly to jet lag, daylight savings, night shifts, and other such disruptions. Caffeine can stave off sleep pressure, but it ends with a crash, followed by bad sleep. You can't fool Mother Nature. We know people are asleep by observing them. They have low muscle tone and are unresponsive. Now, how do you know if you have been asleep? Clues: you're rested, you had dreams, but your sense of time is off. Time is distorted when you're dreaming. 70 years ago, they discovered that we have 2 very different types of sleep: REM and non-REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement. Our eyes go back and forth while our bodies are immobile. We cycle back and forth between REM and non-REM speech throughout the night. I'll get to the chapters that cover in depth each of them. The electrical waves of REM sleep are similar to the electrical waves when we're awake, but non-REM sleep is very different. It's characterized by much longer, deeper, and more regular waves. The longer wavelengths of non-REM sleep traverse the length of the brain, enabling communication between regions that don't normally talk to each other. Its most significant function appears to be transferring short-term memories from the hippocampus, where they accumulate during the day, to the long-term storage elsewhere in the brain. Rapid eye movement, that is REM sleep, is dominated by dreaming, which includes aspects of both non-REM sleep and wakefulness. Walker writes that the wake state is principally reception, learning about the world around you. Non-REM is reflection, storing and strengthening new facts and skills. REM is integration, connecting new facts and skills with past experience and generating insights and solving problems. Animals as simple as worms, which evolved 500 million years ago, have something similar to sleep. In humans, REM sleep is characterized by paralysis. So dreaming about moving doesn't promote actual movement. What works in humans wouldn't work in whales. They have to keep swimming regardless, or apes, which sleep up in trees and they have to hang on so they don't fall out. Walker describes the ingenious evolutionary adaptations that allow these animals to cope. In humans, REM sleep increases our ability to recognize socio-emotional signals that are so abundant in human culture, such as facial expressions and body gestures. We can therefore make intelligent decisions about other people. Conversely, people who are sleep deprived don't make such good decisions. REM sleep also enhances creativity, a defining characteristic of the human race. The amount of sleep we need varies over the course of our lives. Babies need a lot of sleep in the uterus and when they're nursing. If mom confuses their sleep with too much alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, or whatever, it can affect their development. Teenagers need a lot of sleep. Equally important, Matthew Walker stresses, is sleep into the morning after the adults typically wake up. This facilitates their transition from dependence as children into independence. It also contributes to their brain maturation, their development of judgment, critical thinking. Older adults, they say, people like me, need the same 7 to 9 hours as younger ones, but we don't always get it because of physiological changes. Many of the medical problems associated with aging are associated with insufficient sleep. Now, sleeping pills don't help. He stresses this over and over. He strongly recommends non-pharmaceutical interventions, therapy instead of pills. Forgetfulness in us older people is often a function of not getting enough REM sleep to consolidate the day's memories. Part 2 of the book is more about the dangers of not getting enough sleep than it is about the benefits of sleeping, his title notwithstanding. A number of studies show that sleep is essential for transferring short-term memory to long-term. Equally important is the ability to forget, because most of our short-term memories is stuff we won't need in the future. Yesterday's appointment, the make and model of the car that drove us home. Our unconscious brain somehow knows what can be forgotten and what needs to be saved. Sleep not only solidifies factual memory, but motor memory, such as how to ride a bicycle or roller skate. Musicians sometimes report unsuccessfully practicing a piece all day, then sleeping on it and waking up magically able to play it in the morning. The brain has fixed that. Statistics show that adequate sleep significantly decreases the risk of injury in sports. And most interestingly, sleep contributes to creativity. Rapid eye movement sleep is a period of making associations unconsciously that couldn't have taken place in our conscious minds during waking hours. Drowsy driving leads to 1 death per hour, says Walker, due to traffic accidents. A person can fall asleep or have a momentary lapse called microsleep. It usually happens to the chronically sleep deprived. In my case, the doctor speeding to his hospital one morning totaled my car. He somehow didn't notice I was stopped for a red light and rear-ended me. He was very apologetic, and I'm sure he was also wide awake by the time it was all over. Driving with insufficient sleep, less than 5 hours, has about the same impact as driving drunk. Truckers are notorious for pulling long shifts and also for being overweight, which leads to sleep apnea, which further decreases the quality of their sleep. The airline industry coined the term of a power nap to describe an hour-long nap that pilots might take early in a flight so that at the end of a long shift they're more alert and able to control the landing. The popular press unfortunately got a hold of this and leads people to believe it's a substitute for sleep. Walker assures us it is not. Insufficient sleep makes people irritable and prone to poor emotional judgments. They're more inclined to be violent, aggressive, or to bully people. There is a measurable correlation between insufficient sleep and mental illness. Insufficient sleep is also highly correlated with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other forms of dementia. For students, his news is that all-nighters don't work. A student is much better off to study throughout the week and get a good night's sleep before taking a test. Insufficient sleep is highly associated with a shorter lifespan. It leads to heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, and cancer. Sleep is essential to self-repair in the body. Your body figuratively takes out the trash, removing poisons that build up in your tissues during the day if you don't get enough sleep, that remain and gum up the works, both in your brain and your body. Kids who don't get enough sleep are significantly more likely to be overweight. This graph shows that as the average amount of sleep time has fallen by 2.5 hours over the course of my long life, obesity in the United States has climbed from 13 to 35%. Not enough sleep makes you fat. Sleep deprivation also affects our reproduction. Not only do we not feel up to romance, but we don't have the same levels of testosterone and sperm motility. Women don't have as much follicular releasing hormone. Beauty sleep is more than just a figure of speech. Controlled experiments in which people judge the physical appearance of others from photographs show that people who slept well are simply more attractive. The immune system also benefits from sleep. More sleep gives us a better immune reaction, less disease. This includes both infectious diseases and other things like cancer. Now, dreaming is a major aspect of sleep. Our most vivid dreams come during REM sleep. Scientists are figuring out how to use MRI to figure what we're dreaming about. This is an aside, but interesting. They're now to the point where they're somewhat good at figuring out if you're dreaming about cars, for instance. But they're not yet to the point of figuring out the make and model. What do dreams mean? Walker goes in to a great deal of analysis of Freud. He says that Freud was wrong. It's not unconscious wishes. Freud was right only in one big thing. Dreaming takes place in your brain. I think we knew that. Concentrations of noradrenaline, the stress-related chemical, also go towards zero as you dream. Therefore, reliving anxious moments that occurred during the day brings back anxiety-producing memories, but without the anxiety. And as a result, subsequent daytime flashbacks don't evoke such violent emotions. Sleep researchers are trying to apply these observations to treating post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. As previously noted, in dreaming, your mind facilitates the connections between areas of the brain, memories that would ordinarily not be considered together. This has led to a number of remarkable discoveries. Mendeleev had worked for decades trying to systematize the periodic table when it came to him in a dream. He got up immediately and wrote it down. Paul McCartney's Yesterday and Let It Be came to him in dreams, as did Keith Richards' Satisfaction. Last part of the book, where do we go from here? Insomnia is widespread. Sleep aids are a $30 billion a year business in the U.S. External factors that cause poor sleep, such as too much bright light at night, especially blue wavelength light-emitting diodes, the wrong room temperature, caffeine, tobacco, alcohol, and so on, can be changed. The most common psychological triggers of insomnia, worry and anxiety, can be lessened by mediation, by meditation and therapies. Now, narcolepsy is an extreme condition in which the tension between the chemical forces that keep us awake in the day and those that create sleep at night are never resolved. Narcoleptic people are always halfway between. Fortunately, Walker writes, it's relatively rare. And even more rare, there are an unfortunate minority who have chronic, incurable insomnia that leads invariably to an early death. In the century and a half since the gaslight era, 5 factors have affected how we sleep. Constant electric light, regularized temperature, caffeine, alcohol, and rigid schedules. LEDs, which mimic daylight, are especially confusing to our bodies. Alcohol and sleeping pills affect our REM sleep, the effectiveness of sleep. Now, our body temperatures drop between 2 and 3 degrees Fahrenheit, that's a bit over 1 degree Celsius, as we sleep. It's easier to fall asleep in a cold room. Temperature is one of the factors that informs our internal clock and our circadian rhythm. At 65 degrees seems to be ideal. Walker writes that sleeping pills are just bad news. They're depressants. They render a person not awake, but they don't lead to useful REM and non-REM sleep. The effects may last into the day, encouraging you to drink coffee, resulting in a cycle of dependency. Though the mechanisms are varied, people who take sleeping pills, he writes, are 3 to 5 times more likely to die of all causes than matched control groups without sleeping pills. One cause is infection. As noted previously, sleep bolsters the immune system. Car crashes are another major cause. The alternative is therapy. And you can find tips for sleep therapies on the internet. But here are some obvious things: keeping a regular schedule, budgeting enough sleep, getting regular exercise, not eating too much, especially just before dinner, moderation in alcohol and caffeine, and meditation all seem to help. People all over the world are sleeping less than they used to. There's a dollar cost in less productivity. There's also a cost in the decrease in ethical behavior. Though it's hard to measure, one would say that this is a generation with less of a moral compass than its predecessors. It's a good bet that Sam Bankman-Fried, Bernie Madoff, and Elizabeth Holmes skated by on less than enough sleep. Lack of sleep may contribute to poor educational results. To catch the school bus, kids get up as early as 5 in the morning, most before 6:30. This, per Walker, is crazy. They do much better sleeping until 8, which my homeschooled kids do, by the way, and it works. Lack of sleep is often misdiagnosed as ADHD and treated with amphetamines, which further destroy sleep effectiveness. Now, my firstborn son, who's now 40, and who has been lost to his parents and the world for years, had such a diagnosis and was deluged with amphetamines in high school. He didn't turn out well. Sleep deprivation is part and parcel of medical residency. Perhaps not coincidentally, medical errors are the third leading cause of death. The Exxon Valdez and Chernobyl disasters, just to name two, seem to have been caused by lack of sleep. Many changes in society could be made to change the sleep problem, and they wouldn't be expensive. We could light our rooms with yellowish light and a bit less of it. We could go to bed and get up earlier. We could keep our bedrooms colder. We could start the school later and keep the kids longer. We could give employees more flexibility in their work hours. A bit more intrusively, we could use devices that would track our circadian rhythms and body temperatures and hormone levels and recommend changes to our behavior. But most important, if schools and companies simply made people aware of the importance of sleep, calling our attention to its importance as much as they do to exercise, trans fats, and other such issues, we might alter our behavior for the better. I'm going to read Walker's conclusion. It's a great summary. Walker says, "I believe it is time for us to reclaim our right to a full night of sleep without embarrassment or the damaging stigma of laziness. In doing so, we can be reunited with that most powerful elixir of wellness and vitality dispensed through every conceivable biological pathway. Then we may remember what it feels like to be truly awake during the day, infused with the deepest plenitude of being."